Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good buddies Richard
Hello.
and Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael debate and deliberate the most ubiquitous aspects of a variety of topics. And this time around, I think it's a Richard Manfredi joint. What is it, Richard?
It is the Mount Rushmore of late night talk show segments.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think maybe he chose it because we knew we were going to have a legit late night talk show host, and that is Mike Perkins. He's on the line. How you doing, Mike?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. This is going to be so fun.
This is awesome. And speaking of so fun, you'll have so much fun if you go see Mike's show, another late show tonight. That is on Thursday, March 28th at the Loft Ensemble Theater in North Hollywood, I think is where it is. Yeah. And I've seen it many times, and it's like being at a real talk show taping, but funnier even probably. And he's got a great house band in the show, and he's always got great guests and a great kind of second banana too. So it's such a great time, and always a bunch of surprises and music. So thank you so much, Mike. I know you're probably furiously preparing for that show, but also getting back from touring as a comic. How's your comedy career these days?
Comedy career is going great. Yeah, I just got back from Texas. I did a show at Cap City Comedy Club. Shout out. That was really fun, man. I did a show with my buddy Steve Rinaldi. He's from Philly. We've been friends even before we started comedy many years ago.
Awesome.
But we both do comedy, both tour the country. So he's like, "Hey, I'm putting something together in Texas. Come down." And I met him halfway, baby. Popping that Southwest flight, and
that's cool.
Yeah. So it was fun. I've been touring a lot too, but
that's awesome. What do you? I'm interested when we talk about late night talk show segments. It seems like there are hosts of late night talk shows who come very often from the world of stand-up comedy, like Letterman and Leno and Carson and all that stuff. And then they come from other segments too, or other places in entertainment. So I think maybe that'll be a fun thing to discuss, how your career and your tenure and your skills that you've gained as a stand-up comic help kind of drive the type of interactions and the type of presentations that you have. So we'll talk about that when we get to the segment. So you are our guest, Mike. So you are the first person who gets to pick first your first example of the late night talk show segment that you want to present.
Ooh, okay. All right. I got my list right here. So there's so many if you think about it. It's like late night talk show. I don't know if you guys watch that documentary, The History of Late Night. Did you guys watch that at all?
I did watch some of that. Yeah.
It was amazing. Like going back to like Steve Allen and how like they were just like, they're like, "Hey, we got nothing to do at 11 o'clock at night. Why don't you guys just do whatever the hell you want?"
Yeah.
They would just have like big bands on. And I think, who was after Steve Allen?
Jack Parr.
Jack Parr was doing stuff where he was having like, just different dancers and comedians and everything else on there too. But I kind of grew up, Conan has been like one of my favorites. It's always been like Jimmy Fallon and Conan for me. So one of my segments, the first one I'm going to put up there, is Triumph the Insult Comic Dog.
Oh, great. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Because one of that, like, when they brought that up, that was something they would do like he became such a viral sensation. Just because, that segment you can go back to and just always funny. The one I was watching last night, it was when they went to do, it was one of the famous ones. They went to the Star Wars Attack of the Clones premiere.
Oh yeah.
And he was just roasting all of them.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, "Oh, I guess you never got laid before," or like whatever. They were just roasting all these people.
Yeah. Which one of these buttons calls your mother to pick you up and take you home?
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
That particular segment, it was like one of those things that hit really home for me, being like a huge Star Wars nerd growing up. And I think it works so well because of like these people. I think they understand to a certain point how they appear to other people. And then Black Wolf, the Dragon Master, comes out and he's like, "Oh, this person is in such a different world than us that like, oh my God, that like we're nerds. We're Star Wars nerds.
Yeah.
These guys are acting things out." And then there's this guy. And it's like, at least we're not him. But I remember that segment being one of those that like was one of the first like videos like I downloaded through like Kazaa or
Oh, the
LimeWire or
Kazaa.
whatever.
Yeah, what a
It
name
was
drop.
just so. It was like the most important 52 megs of video that downloaded over the course of 2.5 days that I watched over and over as this tiny a MP4 file on a computer. But just magical.
Yeah.
I love Richard, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love this choice because it kind of speaks. I think these segments will speak to what each host and their creative teams thinks is important. And for this one, it's just the absurdity of not only having someone go out and just roast people. I mean, that's one thing you can do, but have it be a hand puppet of a cigar smoking dog speaks to the absurdity that was frequently the case on the Conan O'Brien show.
Yeah.
I do think perhaps Conan and his team were maybe wishing for the old days of the Carson era when he would have frequent guests like Don Rickles come on and go at his panel, and maybe thinking those days when that would be appropriate are gone, or those days of that kind of comic are even gone. But to have Smigel, who was like an amazing sketch writer, I think Smigel was obviously a good joke writer, but an amazing sketch writer, not necessarily a razor, attack kind of comic like Rickles would be. I think that shows the amazing skill of Smigel to be able to do that character. I love hearing him talk about that too, because he said there's some things that he thinks, but he doesn't want to say in the moment because they're just too mean. So they record them later on. And he also, I think somebody even asked him, what's the secret to surviving the roast of Triumph the Insult Comic Dog? He said, the only thing you can do is just smile. Because if you come back at him, you're coming back at a puppet. You just look like an idiot. So
well, screw you, Triumph.
Yeah. You just look like a dumbass. So
you're arguing with a hand.
You're arguing with a hand. Yeah. Fun choice. All right.
Conan's always been one of my favorites. So
So you kind of had Conan. Yeah. Why was Conan? Because I always thought of Conan as kind of having such not just big shoes to fill, but shoes to go against Letterman, Leno, Carson. It's like he had to do his own thing in a world that had been so well trod of stand-up, of comedy hosts, talk show hosts.
I think Conan, I started watching, I always loved comedy movies and stuff. Even as a kid, when I was 8, 9, I'd watch Adam Sandler stuff. But I think actually watching late night talk show stuff when I was maybe middle school or high school, and Conan was just that silly guy doing stuff masturbating bear.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just funny, silly stuff compared to Leno. That's what's going on with we got the crisis right now. It was more political stuff, where Conan's just being super silly and just, doing funny stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, that leads into, I think, our first pick, or at least my first pick for our side is it's another Conan sketch. It's the In the Year 2000 bits. And I think that Conan is just such an absurdist. He finds everything funny. They can make a joke about anything, and nothing seems to be off limits. People die on the show all the time. Masturbating bear. He just has this nonsense that doesn't apply to anybody, but there's enough people out there that just really gravitate towards him and his sense of humor. He's mean, but also really nice. I think he hates himself in just such an interesting way that he's always the butt of the joke, and he doesn't mind being it. But for the In the Year 2000 sketch, it's that weird sense, and I'll kind of refer back to it on a later choice, but they're always these topical things that they're talking about. What would this thing be in the year 2000? But they're really talking about something that's set in the year 1998 or whatever it was. It was always something that was about, I don't know, Paris Hilton. Very topical, but quasi ridiculous. And just the whole prognosticating nonsense into the future about something very current. It was always so funny, and just the floating heads and the quasi science fiction aspect of it, especially
put the flashlight on them and stuff.
That was just this 1950s idea of sci-fi, this Ed Wood like idea,
very Criswell.
Criswell predicts,
that even when they got to like the year 2000 itself, they just kept up with it for like 8 or 9 years. They kept saying in the year 2000, in the year 2008 until they eventually nixed it and updated it.
Yeah.
But it was, I think that was what was so endearing about it. It was just like, yeah, the joke, it doesn't matter what the joke is. So it's even funnier now that they're in the year 2003 and it's still in the year
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah.
But he's so absurd, and I think him and Andy were such a good team of absurdity, in the same way that like Johnny and what's his name? Oh, Ed McMahon he was so banal that like he highlighted Johnny Carson so well, but like Andy was equally as absurd or could play into that, and it that really highlighted him as like as a co-host for all of it. It was like, oh, this guy is fucking nuts too. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Two crazy guys there going back and forth.
You bring out what I think is an interesting thing about these segments is there's so much that Conan inherited that he can kind of go against, like he could go kind of make fun of, like Letterman seemed to want to slash and burn the whole talk show format that came before him. Whereas I think Conan, when he's doing in the year 2000, like you and Richard pointed out, he's really kind of spoofing Criswell Predicts, which was a regular segment on Carson back in the day. So I almost think like Conan is clever enough as a Harvard grad to essentially be dissecting and kind of spoofing the talk show format, but he's got enough kind of a good spirit to him that whereas Carson was the guy that everybody kind of wanted to invite into their living room, Conan is kind of the guy everybody kind of wants to punch, but also because he's kind of making fun of everything. But you just love him because he'll make fun of himself in the same way too. So that's fun. That's fun. Okay, Mike
It's like
Perkins.
It's like that one clip that's went viral recently of him with I guess it was one of the, I forget her name, one of the singers. She's wearing like a really low cut dress, and she's like, Conan, eyes up here, and he's like, ah! He's like, what do you think? I'm not gonna look at you, whatever. So he just makes fun of himself the entire time. Like even the interview portions are just him, self-deprecating.
So that is a thing that I think I don't know if she'll be somebody we bring up because she wasn't a late night.
Oh, there it is, right there. Yeah, there it is.
It seems like
I forget her name.
Jeff just had this image.
I just kind of had it.
Yeah.
This is my screen background. Sorry.
Was it Ellen or somebody or Rosie O'Donnell who just seemed to also want you to know that they were having a blast being with the guests? Like, look how amazing it is that I get to be with this person. I'm not going to take it for granted that I get to be around all these celebrities and stars. So yeah. Okay. Mike P, what's your second?
My second one was from my other idol was Jimmy Fallon. So this was a late night with Jimmy Fallon sketch. It was called Real People Fake Arms. So do you remember that one?
I don't know.
I love that your first two choices kind of involved being puppets.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, this was one. They would kind of set up, be like, hey, you remember we actually worked together before? Like he would be with Will Ferrell. Oh, did I just freeze? Hold on. Oh, there we go. I'm back.
Okay.
And it was like he'd be like, hey, remember? Like he'd be like with Will Ferrell and be like, remember we were on this Canadian sitcom a couple years ago? And they were like, yeah, I think that might be it. Yeah, there it is. And he'd be like, yeah, let's show a clip of it. And they go to them and they'd have these fake arms. And like one of my favorite ones is with Will Ferrell because he's like in like a deli. And like, yeah, I'll have a sandwich. And he just has this fake arm and he's just trying to make a sandwich with a fake arm. But he did like a really good one with Steve Carell and like a bunch of other people too. So that one was just very funny and just like, they're reading kind of off of like, a teleprompter, but it's also like just improv because they're hysterical laughing because their arms are they have to use these fake mannequin arms to try to do stuff like put a suit on or whatever else,
So much of what Fallon does on late night is built around, can we make him crack?
Yeah.
So it kind of falls back into his persona from Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah.
And so this is, it's not so much that because he's not a writer in the same way that Conan O'Brien was a writer before he came on the show before, or someone like Seth Meyers now. He's someone who is a performer first and foremost. So I think that a sketch like this showcases his ability to perform and kind of improv and kind of go along with things kind of as they happen, versus something that's going to require like a really well thought out script.
Yeah.
I'm interested because there's another category emerging, or last 2 decades, ever since Jon Stewart took over The Daily Show, and that's the kind of a little bit more intellectual kind of late night. So it's funny, but it's kind of thoughtful funny, and Colbert iterated that a couple times, so I think
Yeah.
Stewart and Colbert wouldn't necessarily fall into the category of stand-up comic, other than a kind of performer or host turned late night talk show host. So it's interesting to me how they might approach it differently in terms of like Colbert definitely leaning into the interview and leaning probably into the monologue being written for him in a kind of a biting satirical kind of way versus this goofy stuff that Jimmy Fallon is so good at. Yeah.
Well,
And I
that's
think
Conan too.
Yeah.
Because
Is it?
they all came from SNL, so it was like more of like they were all sketch and they were used to that kind of, that kind
Yeah.
of silly writing.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing I think Conan does nicely is, or Fallon and does nicely is uh, figure out what the audience wants to see with that guest and make it happen. Like put Chris Hemsworth in a white shirt and pour water on him. I think there's stuff that they figure out that
Pull up a clip. All right.
Yeah. Okay, Richard, you are next.
Yes, I am, and I will go back to a classic, probably the classic late night talk show, Johnny Carson. And as much as I love Art Fern's Tea Time, that's was one of my favorite sketches growing up. As much as I loved that, if I had to pick one from Carson, it would be Karnak the Magnificent.
Awesome.
And I'm fascinated by this sketch for several reasons. One of them is how it kind of perfectly showcases, there are these sketches that are basically, there's a lot of window dressing around them, but they're essentially just a joke mechanism. They're just a way to get kind of one-liners and vaguely connected jokes kind of out there. Very vaudevillian in some ways, or at least, very much of the classic style. But then Karnak kind of tweaks that a little bit, and then instead of getting the classic sort of setup and then punchline, you get it flipped around. So you get the punchline first, then you get the setup.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was kind of a neat way to kind of invert the expectation of a comedy segment. And then the other thing is, and this I think was typical of Carson. I grew up watching Carson. I'll date myself a little bit here. But many times the biggest laughs came from the jokes that didn't hit.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that he and Ed McMahon would kind of play off of that and kind of use that as a springboard to sort of joke around about how bad the writing is or make fun of the audience or whatever it happened to be. That kind of showed just how quick on his feet Carson was. And that's a talent that you have to have as a late night host. It's just that ability to adapt. And if a sketch is going a certain direction, how do you salvage it? And so many of those Karnak routines, the big laugh lines weren't necessarily the jokes that landed the best. It was how they reacted to the ones that didn't land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think when I've seen Mike Perkins host a show or headline a show, the one thing that people do immediately is like Mike Perkins. He's such a fun guy, and you look like you're having as much fun. You were so excited to be there. You're so happy that the audience is there. So people just have to like you. And when they do, they'll forgive a joke, that doesn't really kind of land or whatever. And I think if any of us any listeners out there are old enough to remember the Chevy Chase show, he did not have that kind of likability that other comics had. And Joan Rivers, even though I liked her, she was
Joan Rivers.
Yeah, they weren't ready for her kind of abrasive nature or the the kind of thing where she didn't care whether you necessarily liked her or not. She was just she had a different time zone to her. I think we're used to that a little bit more. But yeah, I think that thing is like when you love the person, you'll follow them and you'll love them even more for taking a chance and bombing on stage.
Yeah. I appreciate that because I bomb a lot. So at least my monologue jokes always do.
Yeah. Just to see you plow ahead, it's like watching a toddler kind of take on a pit bull. It's like he's he's gonna get mauled. He'll probably die, but hey, he's putting up a good fight.
Got to figure out that 4 box of like likable, unlikable, absurdist, generic, and where like all the different late show talk show hosts like fall in between. Like who's like dead center? Is Johnny Carson like right in the middle? Is he like just the I don't know, epitome of like can he fill all 4 boxes? I mean, there's a Jimmy Fallon, likable, absurdist, or likable, annoying. I don't know. Yeah, you got to figure out which 4 like kind of quadrant they all fit into.
Yeah, I think other hosts. This is not necessarily a late night talk show, but like Charles Grodin, Bill Maher, they don't necessarily even the SNL news guy who had a show for a while. Anyway, that I Am Out of Here guy, Dennis Miller. Yeah, they had shows for a while, and I think what they wanted you to
Miller guy.
Yeah, hey, bud. They wanted you to. I think be challenged by them. They weren't necessarily working so hard to be likable, which is another way to approach it. If you listen to Steve Allen, he speaking of like stuff from vaudeville or whatever, he'll basically say, "I invented all the stuff that Carson took, including the desk, that became the format of late night." But I think Steve Allen borrowed it all from vaudeville anyhow, so it wasn't like he kind of created it. So we are at our halftime, and at this point, we are going to implore you to do 2 things: to download, rate, and review past episodes of this podcast, and also go online and get some tickets to see another late show tonight at the Loft Ensemble on March 28th. Our host Mike Perkins is. Oh, look at that! Yes,
hey,
you can buy those.
Look at this branding.
Tell them where they can buy that mug, Mike. You got merch.
I got a ton of them right here in my apartment. So if you want to come, I'll meet you somewhere. Whatever you like.
That's how cheap. That's how cheap the Mount Rushmore podcast is we make the guests bring their own mugs. They have to bring their own branded stuff that they.
So Mike,
$1,000 on these mugs for this podcast.
Oh my god. Before we jump into the second part, and Mike, how hard is it to produce these shows? What don't people know about the work that goes into creating this kind of activity?
I mean, it's really hard. Like going back to I wanted to say about bombing, like because I do it it's this theater called Loft Ensemble. So our stage is different every single like month for the most part because they're doing different productions, and we kind of just end up in that space. So like in that way, we kind of have to go with like the flow. Like there was one a couple months ago, they were doing the show upstairs because we do it either upstairs in the black box or downstairs in the main stage. Depends on like where they're not rehearsing, which makes it fun because we're just kind of improv in the moment. But it was the scene, their set was on like in a hotel room. So the whole stage was a hotel room. So we just had a giant bed in the middle. So like I had to interview the guests on a bed. I was like, who am I, Harvey Weinstein? You kind of have to kind of go with the flow of that stuff.
That's so funny.
But there was also one time that worked good where like my monologue joke didn't hit. Who was the comic that got arrested years ago?
Actually,
Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce. So they were doing a show about Lenny Bruce. It was like a biopic. And there was one part where like on the stage, they had like a bathroom. So there was a toilet. So every time one of my jokes didn't work, I just went over to the toilet and threw it in there. So you just kind of adapt to the atmosphere of it.
That's fun.
I mean, I've been doing it 4 years now, but the beginning, I remember like being like, my first show ever, like, I was like, I could just improv the monologue, right? I just like did like 2 jokes and was like, and went right back into my stand-up because I'm like, this is harder than I thought. But it's hard. it's hard in that sense where like I write all my own jokes, or like I write like a new 10 minutes kind of every month, but like, they're all hit or miss, like topical monologue jokes. Um, but it's a lot. I mean, you have to book all the talent. You have to make sure that, I have a house band, so like they're on board with me too. And my sidekick, Paul, like we have to like make sure like he's like in charge of like doing our games and stuff. So I'm not writing every single thing on the show. Um, but then also booking the guests too. I mean, that's kind of hard. Like I said, we just kind of had like our guest kind of drop this month, so now I got to find another guest. But also, you want to kind of know like what they're about. Like I kind of like know people from the comedy community, so I know like who they are. But like, kind of researching them, like look at their stuff, like, hey, what did you do? Like, what was this about, and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
it's a whole like. I mean, you think about like, if you look at the Tonight Show or Conan or whatever, it's like they have a whole team. It's like, well, it's just me
Yeah.
putting this show
Yeah.
together with my team, like Adam and Sean and Paul. Like we all help each other that night. But like, as for the prep, like, I mean, I'm writing my own jokes. I don't have like a writing team or anything,
Mhm.
all that shit. So it's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's
Yeah.
fun. You gotta love it.
Yeah.
And also buy the merch, support the merch.
Buy the merch. Well,
I
seriously,
tried to get my girlfriend to sell these at the end of the show. I'm like, they're not going to buy them from me. You're pretty. Try to sell them. And she's the only one that sold like 3 of them so far. So
Sweet. That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay. Well, even though it's a lot of work, you make it look easy, and so I'm
Thanks, man.
eager to see the next one that I can get in there to see. So, but now we're back after halftime. We're going to ask you what your third choice is for the Mount Rushmore late night talk show segments.
So my third one that I had down, I didn't want to just be all Conan and Fallon. I kind of wanted to go across the board and think of like, what's like a crazy one that's gone like, that's really popular. And I remember this one from back in the day. It was when Jimmy Kimmel, the fucking Matt Damon feud.
Oh yeah,
You remember
Yeah,
that sketch?
sure,
Where
yeah.
like
yeah.
he would always be like, "Oh, Matt Damon counts on us again," but then they would kind of have like Sarah Silverman be like, "I'm fucking Matt Damon," and then there was one part where like they went in and Damon or he was like Jimmy was like, "I'm fucking Ben Affleck," or like whatever. So that was like an ongoing segment. I think that was kind of huge for Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not a big like I like Kimmel, but I never really watch it. But I remember that like sticking out of like
Mhm.
that's definitely on like Mount Rushmore of like people like would know like, oh, that's an amazing sketch or
Yeah,
like
that's
series that they did.
interesting. When the talk show host reaches the echelon of the celebrities who come on the show, and as if they're kind of all in the kind of the mix, they're on an equal authority level with them. Because I know, like especially when Conan started out, it just looked like there'd be a or even a B-list celebrity on that show, and then Conan was just kind of nobody, So I think he had a hard time really holding down that seat because he
He
just
was
didn't have.
he just wasn't he was a visible person. He was just all of a sudden he was this redheaded stick that showed up, and
Yeah.
his first show he had like it was like George Wendt and John Goodman. They were like sumo wrestling each other, and it was like,
Yeah.
and then there's just this guy with this toothpick with a red flop of hair like standing next to him, and like what is what is
Yeah,
going on? This guy is a nobody. This guy's a
yeah,
writer from The Simpsons and a writer from SNL. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't on stage doing things. But to have I mean, Jimmy Kimmel is has such an interesting ascendancy of his celebrity, coming out. He was like came from radio and came from like radio in like Arizona and Las Vegas or something, then came out to LA and did sports stuff on like K-Rock here in LA.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
then became friends with Adam Carolla and did like the Man Show. And I think people talk about that a lot. I mean, he's so prominent these days because of his current feud with Donald Trump. He's just making jokes about the guy that is the most easiest person to make jokes about.
Yeah.
And he's hosting like and because of his celebrity on his Jimmy Kimmel show and his conversation with the nation in that way. And now he's hosting he's on the stage with literally the biggest movie stars in the world, making fun of them like you said, as he's on their level. And, you talked about it earlier, like how these people got from stand up to whatever. This is a guy that was like literally saying the sports scores of like Dodgers games in like 1995.
Yeah.
That's
Like he
awesome.
started out like
Yeah.
literally maybe even, I don't know if he was doing like the surf report, but like almost like weather. It might have been somebody else,
Oh,
but like
wow.
they move from like such small things. And if you're like tenacious and if you start kind of just becoming more and more visible, like obviously the sky's the limit, no matter where you start.
Yeah.
A good friend of ours is a co-head writer for the show, and I think he was 22 or 23 when he got that job. So I
Wow.
think Kimmel definitely is not is bringing talented people along with them, but people not kind of worrying about the pedigree of them, just as long as they're talented. So yeah, that's a super funny thing. Like I feel like we're used to that now with social media stars. Every week there's a new social media star. So
Yeah.
when when Conan got on TV, it was like, who do you think you are? We did not vet you. You just kind of slipped in under the door. And now every day there's a new person on TV or whatever that I go, who the hell is this person? I don't know. Did they come
Yeah.
from TikTok? Did they come from Instagram? Like they were minting new celebrities.
Well, that's what
every hour.
happened. Not to like add, but I don't think anyone has this on the list. Is Lily Singh? Like her? Like that
No,
was like
no.
she. You know who she is? Lily Singh.
Yeah, I do at
She
least.
she was she was a YouTube star that they're like, oh, she has 10 million followers. Let's give her a talk show, and it just ended up becoming a shit show because she didn't come from. I mean, it was an
Wow.
okay look, give her credit. She was doing okay, but she didn't come from stand up. It didn't have like that live comedy element. So like, I mean, her monologues were just brutal and like even like interviewing guests and all that stuff. Like she wasn't like she was just some YouTube star. I mean, granted, her YouTube stuff was, it was funny and all that stuff, whatever, but like it doesn't mean that she could have show, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
they canceled that a long time ago.
that's
think.
right. Oh, yeah. So she was on that Muppet Mayhem. I think that's where I know her from.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, it's Michael. What do you got, Michael?
My next choice is the jaywalking sketches that were on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Jay Leno occupies this she's just like this weird nice guy and has always come off at it as a weird nice guy and very affable, very approachable. Is it that he wears just so much denim that he looks like a guy that works in a garage or like rides a horse to work? I don't know.
That's fun.
About 6 months ago, maybe over the summer, we were driving to like my dad's house in Senlin Tahunga, and up next to us in the car pulls this, I don't know, this car from 1952 or 1933, or maybe it might have even been like I can't remember because or like just a very could have been like a Ferrari or something, and Jay Leno's in there with whoever, and
Yeah.
I tell my son Felix, it's like, Felix, that's a very famous guy. But he's also a nice guy. If you roll down the window, say hi to him. And he just rolled down the window. He's like, hi. And he's like, hey, what's going on, buddy? Why don't you hop in the car with me? Get out of that car. Hop in this car. Go for a ride. Just very nice. I'm sure it happens 20 times a day when he's out and about driving around LA in one of his.
Hey, let's race. You want to race? You want to race? Let's race.
Yeah, just very, very sweet
No.
guy. And so he has a segment, getting back to the actual segment. He has a segment where he'd go around Hollywood Boulevard or like down on Venice Beach or I don't know, like Universal Studios or whatever, and City Walk or whatever, and he'd walk around and he'd just ask regular people easy questions. And because there's something about having a camera in your face and being talked to by a celebrity or whatever, people just become stupid, and it's great. People just get so dumb. I think a bunch of us, I don't know if you've been on a like a game show, Mike. I know Richard has. There's this weird moment when like lights are on you and sometimes you just become stupid. And like I was on a dumb show 20 something years ago called Beat the Geeks, and they asked a very simple question. And I did not know that Sylvester was the cat that chased Tweety Bird. And it's just like one of those things
Damn it.
happens all the time on jaywalking is they
You
ask
could
you
have
to
won $1
say,
million.
they hold up pictures of like very famous people, and people are just like, what? I don't know who that is. They ask questions where the answer is in the name of, what color is the White House? They ask questions with simple answers, and people just freeze up or become stupid, or maybe they are stupid. I don't know, but they're very endearing because you feel, I feel a connection to like a person that is just like being accosted by a celebrity, and you're just like, oh my God, your mouth becomes dry and humbled. And I
Yeah.
think that he has this very good natured, but and in the moment tries to make you feel comfortable for being stupid. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that there is this moment of connection to stupidity that jaywalking brings, and I appreciate it.
I love jaywalking. Yeah, that was a great segment.
Fun choice. Fun choice. Okay, your last choice, Mike Perkins.
My last choice I wanted to give, if we're gonna chisel them in stone, I did want to give kudos to Johnny Carson.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know if it's considered a segment. The ones that I have always watched was just when Don Rickles was on, which turns into a segment in itself. It's funny you said that earlier. It's just always funny when Rickles was on Carson. So that's my fourth.
Oh, fun.
Nice.
Because he ended up being like, that was always a big thing of like, oh, Rickles is here, and ends up being like an entire show in itself of Rickles just kind of roasting everybody.
Yeah.
So
I think
and messing
Rickles
with
was
Carson.
I think he was filming PTO Sharky, or there was some show that he was filming next door for some time.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was kind of easy to get Rickles on your show
Yeah.
there. That's one aspect I think is really interesting of late night, is the times when these shows that were filmed at working sound stages in the afternoon, where these guys are just they're 2 doors away, some of these guests that are
Yeah.
going to pop in. But yeah, I love Rickles. A lot of guests towards the end were definitely coming into Carson to kind of kiss the ring a little bit, and Rickles would never, ever
Yeah.
think of doing that. And then I think in terms of panel, like once you've got, if you've got a panel where you've got Sinatra and
Yeah.
Angie
Blackstone,
Dickinson.
Angie Dickinson, and then you just let Rickles come out and just kind of go
Yeah.
at everybody. Oh, that's freaking great. That's fun.
But yeah, that's my my fourth, which it might not be a segment, but I mean, Rickles was like a big staple of, I think, the Tonight Show, because
Mhm.
when he stopped by, I was like, oh my God, Rickles,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
think you could almost
Carson would just let him go. Carson
you
would be
could
like, yeah, so
almost
what you.
and just giggle. And I think what Carson did really nicely is kind of sometimes do an eye cut to the camera to kind of imply that I'm not in control here. I
Yeah.
didn't just invite this guy. I didn't tell our producer to go get him to bring him in to make fun of Jim Neighbors. Like, of
Yeah.
course he did. Of course he did. Of course you are. You can cut it off anytime. Oh, that's fun.
Which had to be an easy segment for him. Not a side, but like, interview segment, because like Carson would just be like, all right, it's all, I don't have to do anything right now. He's just going to go off and do his own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just have to react and give like well, I don't know, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think Carson was also as a host really kind of always wishing to kind of have that adrenaline of something new, because I know a lot of those segments get produced to death. If it's
Yeah.
Joe and Embry going to come on and talk about all he knows exactly what the conversation is going to be. It's going to be super scripted and he'll just kind of tune out. But yeah, when you bring in essentially the Tasmanian devil, which is what Rickles was,
Yeah.
you don't have any sense of what's going to happen. So, all right,
Yeah.
Richard and Michael, you've been holding your own up until now. Nah,
Well,
that's not
wait till
true.
the last. Wait till
Yeah.
the last.
Okay. All right. What do you got?
All right. So everyone, listeners to the show, know my love for David Letterman, and I just didn't feel like I could do this episode without doing a Letterman one. Now I thought about the top 10 lists, but again, that's another example of kind of joke punchline sort of delivery mechanism. I was always more intrigued by the stupid pet tricks.
Oh, fun.
And maybe it's for that reason that you just said, Jeff. It's because there's that sort of lack of script and lack of knowing what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Because what's harder than, the two things that are the hardest to work with, kids and pets, kids and animals. And you know, love the idea that it was some of these tricks were amazing and some of them were just the dumbest shit you've ever seen in your life.
Mm.
And Letterman just kind of went along with it no matter what it
Yeah.
was, kind of treated it with all the same level of gravitas or lack thereof that it deserved.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
yeah, and you can tell that it was something that he loved doing, versus doing another interview of some Hollywood's, actor or
Mhm.
actress, which again, so many times he would just tune out or try to see how much fun he could make of them to their face without them knowing it. And he
Mhm.
never did that with the stupid pet tricks because he was I assume still is a big pet lover, especially a big dog guy. So you could tell that whenever a big hulking dog would come up to do a trick where they would get their owner a beer out of the refrigerator, he just thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it came across.
That's pretty awesome. I do think as a guy who kind of made irony into an art form, he kind of elevated irony in the late night segment to kind of his whole personality.
Right.
You can't be ironic when a chihuahua's humping your leg. That's just a thing that you're just there. It's just happening. You can't distance yourself too
Yeah.
much, or you can't pretend that you're cool. So that's one thing I freaking love about Letterman. Well, awesome. Hey, Mike, so what are you is there something that you love to in terms of like topical? I know it's really kind of hard to write topical, especially since sometimes it changes the day of the show, like what topical stuff is. Is there anything that
Yeah.
anybody you like talking about? They're like, oh, thank God for this person, because I always get to write jokes about them. Or what gets you excited about doing the show?
Yeah, I don't really I don't get political because I don't really know anything
Yeah.
about it. Like I'll do I mean, you have to throw Trump joke out all the time because
Mhm.
he's the only thing that's in the news half the time. But I kind of get excited of doing like fun facts, like jokes like that, like stuff that came out, like a new
Oh, yeah.
study has shown, you know, stuff like that. Those are always fun because
Mhm.
because the way you can write and structure that joke is it's such a turn because you're like, oh, a new study came out about this, and then it's like, oh, now my whatever
Yeah.
the topic could be. But yeah, I get excited every month. I get excited when my joke works because I'm like, I work I try to do it. I try to do like right now, like I'm 2 weeks out. Like I'll start looking for topics now just to look,
Mhm.
different articles online or whatever else, and maybe even a week out just to kind of. I always want to do that to like work my muscle of like, hey, I can do this in a week, but also like keep it like really current. Because otherwise, you're like, hey, did you guys hear about the submarine exploding? Like whatever, and you're
Mhm.
like, that was 3 months ago, whatever.
Yeah.
But I get excited over that. I get excited just kind of being in the moment, like with the house band and stuff too, and cracking jokes and
Mhm.
all that stuff too. But it's always
I think
exciting every month just to do the show.
I think that must be one way a stand-up comic has an advantage over perhaps another, different pedigree of a host, and that is you've done your 10,000 hours standing on stage.
Yeah.
You've been in a tight corner before, and you had to kind of make it work and make it happen. So that's definitely at your advantage when you're doing that. So right on,
Yeah.
cool. Cool beans. So thanks, guys, for getting on and talking about the Mount Rushmore of late night talk show segments. It's at this point where I have the dubious honor of trying to judge such great lists, but this is what I'm going to go for. The Mount Rushmore of late night talk show. Well, can we see this? Can we see this? The Mount Rushmore of the top four. This is the top four that I've chosen. And oh my God, Mike Perkins, you got three of the four.
Oh,
Triumph the
okay.
Insult Comic
Hell
Dog,
yeah.
Real People Fake Arms, fucking Matt Damon. But Stupid Pet Tricks from Richard and Michael came in to steal a point away from you there, dude. So
I love it.
yeah. So
Hell yeah.
this has been the Mount Rushmore of Mike Perkins merch. You can purchase that cup, the very cup. Show off the cup,
Hey,
Mike. Come
you
on.
could also be a special guest.
You
Look at
could be a
that.
special guest.
You could do it.
Oh my God. It's like 10 till 2.
shit.
And what time is it in LA? He's probably got vodka in there. Oh, we're back. You're back live.
I'm back. I love how you know what? It's perfectly froze on the merch though. Did you see that? Did
yeah.
that on purpose.
Keep that in your car, and because you're bound to see Jay Leno, just like everybody who drives
Yeah.
around Burbank or North Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
You can give him that mug.
Who's that guy wearing all denim? Oh, it's Leno. Okay, let me give him a cup. Hold on.
Richard,
me
what
give
were you
him a
going to say?
mug.
You're on mute.
It really wasn't that important, Jeff.
Oh, okay. I'm sure
I
it
was
was
just going to say you
hilarious.
could go to your local Bob's Big Boy and find Jay Leno hanging out in the parking lot with his DeSoto.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
I was a point where I saw Drew Carey every time I was there. Like, are you always eating at Bob's Big Boy, Drew? Okay,
awesome.
all right. This has been the Mount Rushmore of late night talk show segments. I'm always Jeff.
I'm Richard.
Michael.